Well, first off, thank you for doing this with me. I'm extremely excited. As I kind of said at Blue House Books, you're one of the authors that got me back into reading, and to kind of meet you in person is insane to me.
Oh my gosh. Well, you're welcome. I want to know, how did it get you back into reading? What's like your reading journey?
For me personally, I stopped reading in high school and then I tried to get back into it. And it was probably due to the person I was with at the time was a very philosophical person and was like, if you're not reading something that's going to enhance your life, then it's not really meaningful to it. I don't know. I saw Book Talk and I'm like, whatever, I'm going to give it another shot. So I started with romance and then I read a couple mysteries and then I read your book because it was on the Barnes and Noble table. And I'm like, first of all,
Dead 11.
amazing. I loved your cover.
Thank you. You're talking about Dead 11, right?
Yeah, Dead 11. When it like was first published, I was like, I like this, and it's about Wisconsin. That's even better. So, and it sounded really interesting.
Thank you. Like they always say, don't judge a book by its cover. I'm kind of like the opposite though. I'm like, my covers are so amazing. Please judge my book by the cover because the cover designer, his name is Alex Robbins. He's an artist in the UK and he won an award for Dead 11, some type of like fiction book cover of the year for that specific cover. He is astoundingly talented and he did the cover for 13 Months Haunted as well. And I'm hoping he can keep it up.
I'm not gonna lie, I judge books by covers.
It's very different. It's super unique.
I did see that you started off on Reddit, and I was curious, when did you start writing and what made you want to become an author?
It's funny. My daughter asked me that question literally this morning. When I was a kid, I really liked just stories and storytelling and movies and anything creative. I was always drawn to like the idea that someone wrote it, that it came from someone's brain. So it was so cool. And I never let go of that. I always knew I wanted to write in like some form. For a while, I wanted to be a Hollywood screenwriter. I wrote a bunch of movie scripts like in my 20s that were probably terrible. And then I kind of got back into long form novel writing kind of for the first time ish. I was a creative writing major in college. So this stuff never left me. I always enjoyed just telling stories, joke telling. I started young adult writing in my late 20s. I wrote a couple of those and I tried to get an agent. And it didn't work out. I did the whole querying email literary agents and like condense your book down into 300 words. And hopefully the agent had enough coffee that morning or their assistant had enough coffee so you don't just get like shoved aside. And like looking back, they're okay. I wasn't there yet. I never gave it up. I just took a break, chill out for a while. And that's when I discovered the Reddit No Sleep Scary Story Forum. And I just really enjoyed reading people's stories. Reddit No Sleep, it's very different than when it was 10 years ago. And that's when I started putting stuff on there. It's almost like the world's biggest campfire. Everyone likes sitting around a campfire telling spooky stories. And it started out as, hey, something really spooky and true happened to me. I'm going to tell you guys all about it. And most of the stuff was written in first person. It kind of felt like someone was sitting across from you telling you a really scary thing that happened to them. And what was interesting about it, and I guess it's still true if you go there now, is there's no immersion breaking. The rules of the subreddit are that you have to pretend everything is real. So you can't be like, hey, great story, bud, or your writing is so good. It's more, oh my gosh, Paul, like, are you okay? You saw a ghost. I hope you're doing okay. You gotta kind of like play into it a little bit. So like that part is kind of crazy and like fun. When I first stumbled across it like 10 years ago, I was new to Reddit and I was kind of like duped. I spent like the first half hour reading some things thinking it was real. I'm like, what is happening here? People are in the comments going back and forth. Oh, like this guy visited this weird farmhouse in Nebraska and I think I know where it is. And they're posting links to Google Maps and everything. And I was like, what in the world is happening? And I was duped for a couple of minutes and then I realized that it was all fake. I like spooky stories. I'm going to start writing some stuff. So I started writing them and putting them on there. It's an upvote system. So the really popular ones go to the top and I was getting upvoted a lot. And so I had a lot of success on there and I just kind of kept going with that for a while and kind of parlayed that into writing for the No Sleep podcast and another horror podcast. My goal has always been to write professionally. But I didn't get into it being, oh, this will definitely lead to that. It was more, oh, this is fun. People are reading what I'm writing. Every writer has like different goals, Some people like to write in a diary or journal and no one else gets to see it. For me, like I always want the most eyes possible on something if I'm like proud of it. It was a thrill. Get these like thousands and thousands of upvotes and people are narrating your stories on YouTube and like writing. It was really cool.
I read that you wrote under like a pseudonym. Is there any reason behind that?
Actually, yeah. So this is a poster for The Dark Knight, and there's a Joker image right there. When I had to post my first story, it was like you needed a username, and I didn't want to overthink it. So I'm just looking around, and I'm like, oh, the Joker had a red grin. So like red grin it is. There was no thought outside of that, which is kind of funny.
You said you sent off the little snippets of books to publishers and everything. And I don't know if this was kind of bigger when you started writing stories. Did you ever think of self-publishing at all?
That's a good question because a lot of people do like, and it's way easier now. But I did a lot of research and reading into how to get an agent and like how to get published and all that stuff. And something that always stuck with me was if you want to be published by a big five, don't self-publish because yeah, your name could get out there. I don't want to sound like I'm saying self-publishing is bad, but I remember reading that you only get one first book. So that's kind of where I was like, no, I'm going to put my stories online with the eventual goal of be a traditionally published author. It was always my specific goal. I'm like, I'll wait it out. I was pretty, I mean, I guess I'm still pretty young. I'm 44, which isn't super old. And when I started this, I was in like my late 20s. I feel like people don't generally hit their stride unless you're like a serious wonderkind. A lot of people really don't get pubbed until late 30s, 40s. So I was like, I got time to figure this out. My stuff has gotten better and I was just patient and it all kind of worked out.
Like you said, I think self-publishing is more common now compared to 10 years ago.
I don't know if on-demand printing even existed 10 years ago. Now you can put it up on Amazon and you can be like, oh, sure, like I want to buy a copy and they'll print one copy of it and it'll just send it off. I don't know if how recent that is.
There's also Kindle Unlimited and everything like that, digital forums that you get paid for it. I don't know the difference, but probably not as much, but still it's a start.
For everything I've read too, it's really hard to stand out also self-publishing. You have to like get yourself noticed somehow, whether that's through the volume of stuff you're putting out, something happens to go viral, you've slowly built up your fans over the years, just because there's so much of it now, it's hard to stand out. I'm so lucky that I wound up with a publisher, Dutton Books, who has done my two books and are doing my next two. What goes on behind the scenes is like incredible. How they get the books into the hands of the right booksellers and the bookstagrammers and the influencers. They know what they're doing. And it's like really special to kind of like see my stuff out there.
I've been keeping up with it, especially with your release coming in like 2 days.
It's pretty wild. I'm not a big put your life on social media person. I'm not intensely private or anything, but it's not in my nature to put myself out there all the time with stuff like that. But I know that, especially with a book launch and everything, I got to keep posting. But a lot of it's just being thankful to people are reading my books, posting about my books. The least I can do is thank people for them and like repost their stuff and be like, yo, thank you for reading. There's a billion books out there and you picked up mine. And I'm always super grateful.
Your first book was Dead 11. How has that changed your life since being published?
Number one, I'm just happy to get to do it. The biggest thrill of it is knowing that all my hard work paid off. Because like writing a book takes a long time and it's a lot of time away from my family. My daughter's 8 years old, and the best part of my day or my life is being with her and my wife, just doing family stuff. Every time I sit down to write, I'm taking time away from that. Especially when I was writing Dead 11, the first couple of drafts of it, I didn't have an agent yet. I didn't have anything. It felt like a gamble. It was like, all right, like I'm going to really focus and hope that it pays off. Getting the literary agent, getting it published, and having like some success with that was like, okay, it worked. I'm so happy that all that work paid off. The biggest life-changing thing was self-satisfaction and being able to keep doing it. I'm so lucky to be able to get paid to write books, like to get paid to come up with like really spooky stuff and like write stories. It's kind of like mind-blowing to me. I feel pretty self-fulfilled, which is awesome. So I like that. I like interacting with readers. I love that stuff. I love being part of the book community because it's such like a great community of people. I like getting advanced copies of books now. Like I feel kind of like special. There's this book about the Scream movies that comes out on the 19th. And I got to read it like 6 months ago. And seeing the first Scream movie like changed my life. Having early access to that book and being able to blurb it was like, God, this is just cool. It was just like fun. So that stuff's cool too. The ultimate goal is to be able to do this full time. Like I still have another job right now, but I would like to be able to focus more or all my professional energy on writing. So I just keep building and hopefully get there.
You will.
Thank you.
One thing I noticed in both of your books now is that you write about the past. In Dead 11, it was stuck in the time frame. And then you have 13 Months Haunted, which is the start of like, technology and the internet. Is there a reason why you write about nostalgic themes?
I'm a very like nostalgic person by nature. I'm always looking fondly upon the past for like whatever reason. When I took my daughter to Disney World for the first time in like 2019, so she was like 2, I literally cried. I didn't know like what would happen. You were like, oh, we're gonna go to Disney World. This is great. Seeing like her joy about things that I enjoyed when I was a kid, it's really kind of hit me. That's also what Disney does. they are the nostalgia factory. They have monetized nostalgia. I'm just that type of a person. A lot of my stories on Reddit and a lot of things I write about are about like things that happened in the past too, and having to grapple with that in the present. It works really well for a mystery or thriller to have multiple timelines, looking back on something. Memory is also an interesting thing to play with as far as how reliable is my memory, what actually happened. And in horror, when you look back on things, you can just add a spooky lens to it, and maybe it was scarier than you remember. So I'm always kind of like playing with that because I enjoy it, but it also works well for the type of stories that I write. Being a professional now, I think it's kind of marketable. People have asked me, why'd you choose 1994 for Dead 11? And there were a lot of reasons, but one of them was when I started writing that book, Stranger Things was in its second season then, and they were really going after the 80s nostalgia. People really liked that. And I was like, well, maybe I should write something with some 90s nostalgia too. And I was a teenager in the 90s, and so that was a seminal time for me too, and write what you know as a writer. So I'm like, I'll just kind of go back to the 90s and have some fun with it. And then at 13 Months Haunted, I was in college at the turn of the millennium. So all that tech is still very vivid to me. I graduated right before Facebook and social media really exploded. We were in that transitional tech period of we would share things on instant messenger. And if we were taking pictures of a party or wherever, it just lived on a digital camera. Nothing was ever posted online. It's crazy how different our lives would have been if everything we were doing was being posted to the internet. And how would you feel just going out to a gathering and knowing that anything that you say or do is filmed and posted? It's a very strange thing. Changes the way that you behave or expect to behave socially. And it's a fun era to go back to and look at what was life like before that existed, because it wasn't really that long ago.
I remember reading something about how we're very nostalgic because we remember a time before the internet and how childhood and everything used to be. And then we have this big amount of technological progression in such a short time. And that's why we're so nostalgic.
That's really interesting. I know everyone looks back on their youth like, well, it ain't like it used to be. Kids, the music was better and this is better. But I think was way better before social media. That's just what I think. And I think that social media and all that stuff, as much as I use it, as much as you use it, I think we'd all be better off without it. And that kind of comes into play in my new book too. It's kind of subtly, or maybe not so subtly, embedded in there. I'm not wagging my finger at anyone, but I think it's baked into the book a little bit. The dangers of technology.
Speaking about 13 Months Haunted, is there
Yes.
a favorite scene or chapter that you have in there?
Without getting too spoilery, midway through the book, you kind of get some answers about what's been going on. The book is structured very deliberately, where the first half is what is happening. I don't know what is happening to this kid, Avery. And then halfway through the book, you kind of find out mostly what's happening with her. And then the last quarter of the book is dealing with those repercussions of the answer. And I was writing to that midway point. I was really excited to get to the part where you kind of find out what's going on with her and what's Avery's story from before she and her mom moved there. So that was my favorite part to write, because the story's going one way and then it turns. It was really kind of fun to make that turn. So I'm a big fan of story structure and looking at when a reveal should happen and how it should happen. And then from there, I wrote very quickly after that because I was just kind of like nonstop after I got to that point.
I know exactly what part you're talking about because that's when you really ramp up.
It was quick to write too. I'm not a super fast writer. And it wasn't even the fact that I was on a deadline. I mean, I'm always on a deadline. I was just feeling it. My sister's reading it right now, and she had stopped right at that point. I'm like, where are you at? She's like, oh, I'm like, ooh, okay. I'm about to get real.
Do you write any of your characters based off of people you've met in your life?
I think there's little pieces of people I know and even me and things that I've experienced in all
Mhm.
my characters. I have not yet written a character. I'm like, oh, this is definitely Steve. Like, Steve, you are in my book now, man. I haven't done that, whether it's because I don't know anyone super interesting enough to be a character, or I don't want to make anyone mad or get sued or something. I really struggle with characters' names. I just can't figure out what to name people. That's more what I struggle with. I'll just sit here and I'll like Google things and I'll be like, what should I name this person? I'll change halfway through, and then I'll have to do a Command F and search and find and replace.
Yeah.
That's where it gets kind of fun.
And I feel like that happens with a lot of authors because I've seen authors post like, okay, I need names for my book. Throw them out. And so
Yep, throw them out. There's a lot of names out there. For some reason, it's really hard like to come up with a name.
Look up like popular names, especially with yours being nostalgic, popular names in this times.
Piper, like I settled on Piper for 13 Months Haunted because we'd almost named our daughter that. We almost went with Piper. And we always really liked it, but it didn't really go with like the middle name that we wanted. Piper was second place. And then when it was time to write the book, I was like, I really got to use this name. I can't just let it sit here. Like, I just like it so much. I'm like, I'll name my protagonist Piper. It's also a song by the band Fish, which is my favorite band, but that wasn't the reason. It just, that's more of like a happenstance.
What do you wish you knew before becoming a writer? Like one thing.
What do I wish I knew before becoming a writer? I mean, honestly, it's such a cop out. I don't really have, shoot, I've been doing this wrong, or I really wish I'd have known that. I mean, I think it's time. I knew it would take a lot of time to like write a book. And I guess I didn't know how much I would be constantly thinking about it. Even when I'm not writing, I'm always thinking about it, thinking about a scene and thinking about a reveal or a plot point. No one ever told me that. It was always about the time you'd put in at the keyboard, but it's more than that. You're kind of creating a world and you're spending all the time thinking about it, and then your regular hobbies kind of go away. My hobbies have kind of just because of like the amount of time it takes to write, but I'm okay with it.
You said that you have another job.
So I'm an educational technologist right now. I basically work with teachers and students integrating tech into the curriculum. So if a student wants to make a website, make a podcast, make a video, or a teacher wants to do a lesson with tech, have the kids do projects, we make it happen. We have to stay on top of all the new and emerging tech and be really versed at media creation tools, AI. Like that is such a big thing in education right now. So we're trying to kind of stay like on top of that and how that should be integrated into the classrooms. And it's kind of a wild time right now with that. So 13 Months Haunted, tech is a big part of my life. It always was and it still is. That just worked out when that kind of became like a big piece of the book because I'm living it every day.
I'm like, I wonder if he works technology because I thought I saw something when I Googled you. And I'm like, I'm going to ask to be on the safe side.
Yeah, it's always been a hobby of mine. And then it kind of became like part of my careers. I didn't have to do like a ton of research when I wrote the book.
How is it balancing your writing life with your teaching life?
I used to teach language arts and I've taught English, social studies. I've taught all these things and like shout out to teachers because it is a ton of work, especially with like grading, lesson planning, just kind of like consumes your life. Your teaching life doesn't end when the bell rings. So I'm lucky enough, I'm in a role where I don't have to grade anything. If I was grading, I would not be able to do this. I would be exhausted. I would have no time. So anyone who can write books and be an English teacher, like how? I don't know how that's possible because I don't have to grade anything. That's the only reason.
Since you're a mystery thriller horror writer, what's your biggest fear?
My biggest fear in life is something happening to my daughter. That would just be the worst thing that would ever happen. And a lot of these themes are embedded in the stories that I wrote and even the books that I have written. Parental themes or what would happen if a kid goes missing. I mean, Dead 11, obviously, there's all that stuff is baked in there too. And this isn't like purposeful. What's my biggest fear? Oh, something happened to my daughter. Let me write about that. But I do kind of channel a lot of that energy into my writing, especially like being a parent, being a dad. 13 Months Haunted, there's a lot of that stuff about something is going on with your kid. How would you respond to that? What type of a parent would you be? That's all in there. And that's all stemming from my big fear for sure.
My last question for you. What is a book that changed your life?
Reading Slaughterhouse-Five in high school, that kind of blew me away. We were required to read it, and I'm glad that they made us read it. It's so structurally unique that kind of opened doors as far as this is very untraditional. And it's so cool that someone gets to write like this. It broke all these rules that like teachers were always telling you not to do. And then you read books like that and you're like, you're doing everything my teacher told me not to do. What a scam. I was probably 15 or something where I was like, okay, like this is great. I want to write like this. Like I want to be able to do what Vonnegut does.
That's all I really have just because there's like a minute and a half left. Thank you so much for doing this. I really, really appreciate it.
You're welcome. Thank you for reading my stuff. I really appreciate that too.